Hey everyone, welcome to Insights ICANN initiative. In today's topics, we'll discuss the first topic about international relations, especially India and her neighbors, where we'll like to talk about India and Pakistan and the angle of cricket in this. So, as we know, there is a Champions Trophy that Pakistan is going to host in 2025, and Indian cricket team is denying to leave the country and play in Pakistan, wants to compete in the match but would be comfortable in playing in some other country but not going to Pakistan. As we have seen, cricket has always been a bond that has linked India and Pakistan people together, and we have used cricket to further many of the diplomatic ideas. But at the same time, we are using this idea of rejecting cricket and negotiating Pakistan to come to the table of discussing terrorism. So if we see, the government has three justifications of telling that why Indian cricket team would not be interested in going to Pakistan. So the first one is there is a main conflict going on between India and Pakistan with respect to the responsibility of Pakistan in many terror activities directed towards India, especially in the state of Jammu Kashmir. And when we are talking about this with Pakistan, at the same time, we cannot have a perception that we'll have casual business ties with them in the form of cricket or in the form of trade. So the government believes that unless and until we clear the issue with respect to terrorism, normal casual activities need not be continued with Pakistan. So this is a way of proving a point that we won't be accepting the idea of terrorism and try to take the friendship very lightly with Pakistan. Hence, this concept is one point. The second activity is India has always entertained or India has always taken the idea of naming and shaming when it comes to terrorism. So, in many international platform, India has used this strategy where it would like to embarrass Pakistan for sponsoring many terror activities. So, when we have the strategy in the international affairs of naming and shaming the country, if we try to normalize ties by sports, it sends a wrong signal, is what the government is perceiving. And the third, yet most important point here is there is a lot of safety concerns to Indian cricket players when they reach Pakistan, as there has been a history of Sri Lankan cricket players once being attacked there. So, with this concern, Indian government is denying participating in the match if it continues to be in Pakistan. So let's just check why this idea of the government is having many counter opinions. And here we have more points than what is there in the first slide. So if we see, sports as an idea has always been used to spread peace. This is not a new idea. We can see that Olympic has started with the same motto where audiences and athletes also have a major role in ending hostilities. Though two countries may be at clash with each other, the people to people ties and the ties between the sportsmen tries to act as a symbol of peace between them. So even in case of India and Pakistan, this episode has been experienced. The second one here would be both the teams, that is India and Pakistan, have played cricket even after brutal attacks. That is, if we recall the 1993 terror attack on Mumbai, and even after the terror attack on Delhi's parliament, the cricket teams have played the matches with the same enthusiasm and the same support drawn by both the countries' crowds. And this is not a new situation for India where we have gone under terror attack by Pakistan and we can discontinue the matches. So, though this idea of discontinuation has worked in many countries, India has always adopted cricket to solve the issues with Pakistan. The third one here is, as it comes to safety of the teams that we are talking about, Pakistan has hosted many important countries just in 2023 itself. Important countries like England have gone, Australian players have played there, New Zealand has been hosted. So the country and the people have seen a kind of pride in hosting the international matches, and they feel that they should become a part of the nation and part of the united world where they are also treated with respect. So to maintain that pride, they have given proper security to the players and made sure they are not harmed in any way in the country. And the last but the most important point at the time would be the idea that sports, remember this as a quote as well, sports has to be above politics. That is, though both the countries, the political parties, or we can tell the governments are divided, sports always is a unifying factor, and India is not a new to this idea. So if you see the other dimensions of India-Pakistan relationship, sports is used as a tool of diplomacy many a times. Sport has built the trust deficit that exists between the countries. It has built the trust gap. Then it has been symbolic and strategic in sending the message that despite divided, we are ready to negotiate many issues that are actually troubling both the countries. And it also has a major role in regional stability. So keeping this in mind, many columnists were arguing that we need to encourage sports activity. And also in the recent past, we see that tennis and other tournaments had been conducted between the two countries, but only cricket matches are not being encouraged. So it is nothing but a renewed version of confidence building measures between the countries, so that terrorism and trade normalization can slowly be brought into dialogue if cricket is started as a beginning point. So as we have seen, this image is an example of Afghanistan cricket team here, and the team is well suited for the quote for journey of resilience and passion. So India has trained Afghanistan cricket team with the only idea that bats are always better than guns. So if we entertain or if we try to rope in children or students to the idea of cricket, it has the best way of keeping away the youngsters away from radical ideas, and it would always be in India's interest. So remember both of these arguments for our GS paper 2 and about India and Pakistan neighborhood relationships. Coming to the second topic, it is about a news that all of you would have read regarding the jumbo crisis in Madhya Pradesh. That is, the topic is mainly discussing the incident in Madhya Pradesh where 10 elephants and a small cub lost their life due to consumption of kodo millets that were infested with fungi. So this incident, brought a lot of shockwave to the country where elephants are revered, and elephant also happens to be the heritage animal of the country. But for UPSC, we would be focusing, or those who are preparing for prelims need to focus on the kodo millet and the toxic part that is there in small amount in the skins of kodo millet, and also how fungal infestation lead to death of the individuals who consume it in large scale, that too in an uncooked manner. But today we'll majorly discuss about the incident that took place here from a deeper perspective of man and animal conflict, specifically man and elephant conflict. So what are the issues with respect to Madhya Pradesh here? The situation, the incident that took place was in Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve. So in this, the idea is that in the past 2 months, 41 elephants have walked into Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve from Madhya Pradesh and Odisha. So when from these two states the elephants have come, it has increased the number of elephants in Madhya Pradesh to 70 elephants in number. So the district or the state administration was not quite clear how to handle the movement of this vast giant that have newly entered. And the second major reason is a title under which we'll again subcategorize it under major problems faced in this situation. So if you see, it's mainly talking about lack of resources. It is mainly talking about lack of resources here. What kind of resources are we talking about here? The department or the articles in Hindu mainly explain some few factors, which include forest guards who keep a track of these elephants. They do not have tranquilizers. Forest guards do not have tranquilizers, which is a major point because of which they are not able to control or reduce the speed in which the movement actually takes place. The second is the same forest guards here, they are lacking proper residential facilities. That is, their quarters are often attacked by animals and the broken windows and doors have not yet been repaired according to many of the reports. Then the training team, that is the team that works with wild elephants, team that actually works to track, we can talk about track wild elephants and tigers, they are not trained well in how to handle the crowd, or if the particular animal falls ill, or if there is a lone surviving calf of elephant that gets stranded anywhere, they have no proper training on how to rehabilitate them, because of which many of the time they lose their life, or there are chances where the people or the team gets attacked by the other members of the group of animals that are venturing and wandering here. And the next major point was lack of doctors or veterinarians who could come and treat the animals. Plus, there was lack of a permanent facility like a hospital where the animals can be taken for treatment. So, why this is relevant? Because doctors have to go to the forest, and in the forest where the injury has taken place, there only they have to treat, which is not feasible to save the lives of animals many a times. So why this issue has happened is Madhya Pradesh has not been well acquainted with managing elephants, as suddenly the number has risen. So we just look into what the other states have been doing, which even Madhya Pradesh is mulling to implement in their uh, district administration. So if you see the few measures taken by other states like Karnataka and Kerala, where elephant penetration is too high, they install satellite collars. Satellite collars will enable to track at least one elephant in the whole herd will have a satellite collar, so that they can be tracked, and we know where the movement of the animals or herd is actually happening. The second major idea is thermal imaging. So even in thermal imaging process, we can identify the herd, entire group can be detected due to thermal imaging. And the third one is trap cameras, like how we use for tiger sensors. These trap cameras will help us to identify individual elephants so that they can be located if any harm is caused to the public. And the fourth yet major important group is WhatsApp group that usually is done. This is even started in Madhya Pradesh already. These WhatsApp groups will be dominated by citizens who will report elephant spottings, and will also have forest department officials who will keep a track of where this movement is happening and give alerts to people to stay out of the area so that the elephants do not harm them. So these are some measures taken by the state governments to tackle the population of elephants who migrate large distances in their daily life. So the next point we look at is some international good practices that are done in the world to curtail man-animal conflict altogether. This is not specifically about elephants, but man-animal conflict, good practices or case studies. So remember them for your mains answer writing. So the first one will be Namibia's conservancy model. Okay, Namibia's conservancy model. You can see the image of it here. So local communities are empowered by granting them some rights to manage and economically benefit from wildlife. That is, controlled hunting is allowed, collecting forest produce and giving them economic value is allowed. So in a controlled manner, this conservancy model has had a great impact on saving the lives of multiple mammals in the savanna region. The second important international example is again from Africa. It is Kenya's Lion Guardian program. Lion Guardian program, the logo of which again you can see in the image here. So this is about roping young boys from the Maasai region and Maasai community. So these people will act as informers to the government to track the lions movement. So again, if they are approaching closer to the villages, alerts are sent and they are helping government by identifying. In return, they get paid by the forest department. So this a symbiotic relation between the tribes or the local population and the forest department has also been implemented in India as well. So if you see, some other examples include Bannerghatta Elephant Corridor in India. So Bannerghatta Elephant Corridor has also made the movement or passage very easily. They have also given room to trenches and fences so that they don't approach human population easily. And second one is from Odisha's Bhitarkanika, where crocodile conflict is mitigated very smartly. We can also take the example of Maldhari community of Gujarat to conserve lion and help government in lion census as well. So here we come to a conclusion by telling that what's the lesson we learn out of these conservation methods. As animal conflict is increasing, the more we include the local community in the part in doing away with the issue, we will not be able to find a very successful model. The second most important one is technology. We need to use technology in large scale. The third one is ecosystem restoration. Ecosystem restoration is the third important factor. So once we have achieved this, man animal conflict can be managed better at a time when the gap between the humans and the forest is slowly blurring. So this scenario reminds me of a very good vachana or a couplet by Akkamahadevi. So it goes with a translation in English that building a home on a hill and fearing the provocation of wildlife. That is, when it is aptly put, the question asked by the Vachanaskara here is that you go build a home in a forest and blame the animals for attacking you. So of late, this has the way governments across the world are developing. So the answer aptly would be for this is sustainable development. So do note down the points. It would be relevant, as you know, in GS paper 3 conservation, again GS paper 1 tribal society and its role, governance, GS paper 2 tribal policy of Indian government. So take this down from 3 perspectives. The third topic is article from web edition of Hindu, where the author discussed about how internet began as a humble medium to connect people and today has ended up in ruling the life of the people. So here, if you recall the early days of internet, it was considered to be super exciting. People could chat endlessly without costing it much. The old people could reconnect with their school friends over Facebook and other internet ideas. Many a time dissatisfied customers would rant their expression on social media. At same time, many people got popularity through viral posts. However, this magic of internet has vanished in the present time. As we see, most of the internet bots are run by algorithms, and the content is most of the time AI generated, and the trust doesn't exist, as in who is replying from the other side is a real individual or an AI chatbot. So it has basically spoiled the excitement that internet actually came to reality with. So we'll note down some important facts about internet today. And if you see, the first one here would be AI tools, that is cheaply available AI tools have led to 57% of the content that is there on the internet to be translated to multiple world languages. So what is so bad about this? This has to be good, right? But the negativity about this is that in many of the African countries and many of the countries in global south, we see that the translation tools are very poor, and most of the time it has led to distorted information, misleading people into clickbait advertising. So this has been a very negative trend where people today are fearing to rely on any information that they get from internet. So the second important idea here is related to democratization of information. So if you see, information that freely was given by internet earlier, it is now in a distorted fact. That is, most of the advertisements that come in the newspapers or anything that we see in the internet today, it is with a commercial motive. That is, any content you consume, there would be somebody who would be having an intention of making money out of it, but that was not the intention of when internet was coming. So due to all these issues, a new theory has come to being, which is called Death of internet theory. Remember this. This is extremely relevant as a concept in your essays, where internet today is blamed for many things, but the same internet is decaying and delaying today, right? So what is the meaning of this? Most online conversations are between AI powered chatbots today, as we have just seen. So they generate anything from fake social media post to politically charged narratives here, correct? So you try to contact any of the customer care services, it's first the AI bot that replies, and they try to give you some compensation monetarily, to give away to the loss that you have experienced in some product. Till a very long procedure, you would not be given connection to a human interaction. So this is how internet today has made things so artificial for us, and that is why we call the internet is not lively, but it is dead already. That is, it's having no life or liveliness in it. At the same time, this platform of internet, which was actually used for the purpose of one's entertainment and social and emotional support, it is often considered to be a profit making machine, where artificially inflating likes and views is not something that we don't know. Many of the people interpret the bot and see how to increase the likes. If you see, there is a statistics which tells that 60% of Instagram accounts in India has fake followers and fake likes. So what do you exactly trust on the internet is a big question mark. And the next important part is advertisement everywhere. Earlier, we do remember so many advertisements from our childhood, like washing powder Nirma, the kind of advertisement whose jingles kind of, stuck in our mind as an emotion and as a nostalgic experience. Today, we no more see that kind of advertisement, but everywhere internet is filled with the advertising, but we hardly remember any of them. So these advertisements do not reach the actual viewers or actual people who need the product. That is one issue. And advertisement related frauds have gone up by 21% in just 1 year, putting the amount to $42 billion in the totality. And the effectiveness of making advertisements have also dropped down. As I've always said, we cannot remember most of the ads that come up in the present time. And as these advertisements come, people still have a trust issue, that they'll tell anything in advertisement these days, how to trust it. So advertisements efficacy and authentication itself has come down. So the author in this article tells that this internet space should be used as a social utility, like how we declare water should be used by everyone, air is everyone's property, roadways is a public utility. In the same way, we need to make internet as well a public or a social utility, because of the way it has deepened in our era. So what is the idea here is, European Union has already made a law called Digital Services Act for transparency in advertising. So, and many attempts are being made in Indian government as well to regulate the content on internet, right? So these are efforts which are telling that slowly internet also is turning into a public utility from the entertaining source that it actually began it. So the author concluded by telling a very beautiful statement, that is, what matters is not who clicks a button, but who cares, right? So in a world where virtual friendships and relationships are increasing, we need to increase human touch by frequent meetups, is the meaning of this last line. So I hope you know the relevance of this topic in GS paper 4, where role of internet in changing social perceptions, and also essays where we are asked to talk about how internet has tried to change the perception of human emotions and human connections, and how it is commercially exploiting it. The fourth article is about a popular reel or an important incident that has taken place on social media. It is about a social influencer. Many of you would even be following him on social media. It is about Revant Himansingha. So Mr. Revant Himansingha is a very popular social influencer in the name of food farmer. Okay, look at the term farmer here. It is PH. So if you see, this person has been very significant in the lives of Indians, because he has always focused on a healthy India campaign. So as we know, the various type of nutritional deficits India currently is having, the kind of non-communicable diseases that Indians are suffering from, which include diabetes, which also includes sedentary lifestyle related diseases like obesity. So though our lifestyles have a major contributory factor to this kind of diseases, the person here believes that many of the products that we consume are also not healthy. So why we don't know that these products are healthy? Because we are not so conscious about what we are consuming in our daily life. So his initiatives have always been to throw light on the healthiness of a brand that we consume. So if some brands are misleading the people by calling themselves as a health drink, this brand is going to give you great strength in your body, you'll be a great sportsman by consuming it. So these kind of myths that the brands give to people are tried to bust by Mr. Revan Singha. So when by Mr. Revan Himat Singha. So in this case, there are many values that we can learn from his life, and definitely use the person as a very good example for how, being a social influencer, he has tried to bring in great changes in the lifestyle of the people. So we'll just look into a two initiatives that he has taken. This is one of the latest one called Label Padega India. That is, Indians will read the food labels, that is what goes into the making of a food, before consuming it or before deciding to buy it. So we should look for added sugar, we should look for added salt is something we commonly know, but also there are many types of prohibited colors and preservatives that are used in the products, and we fail to distinguish it because we are not used to that vocabulary. Hence, of late he has started endorsing a app called Truth in Official, where Dr. Aman has started us. You just have to scan or take the image of the product that you want to purchase, upload it on this app. The app will give you all the kind of products that it is having, and it will give you whether it is a safe food, unsafe food, or in middle path, or it is just okay to consume occasionally. So this would go a long way in making conscious choices and keeping one's health in check. At the same time, the person is also known to have brought into account the Nestle, which is a multinational company dealing with milk products, and it's very popular Cerelac that goes into every family that has a baby or a child usually has Cerelac. So this Cerelac in India is known to have added sugar in it, leading to the idea of sweet addiction among children and giving rise to youngsters or teenage diabetes. So this Cerelac variants were conquered by the food farmer to a great extent, and if you see, Indian government also had taken this matter further, leading to Nestle launching its no refined sugar product variant of Cerelac. At the same time, you can see here, Bonvita was marketed as a health drink by Cadbury, and Indian government and the court has directed that it should not be considered so. If you see, now it has to be coming under a category of a drink, that's it, but it should not be making any claims related to the health. So if you see, Nestle and Cadbury come among the world's most rich companies, and as just an individual, how much courage the individual would be having to take counter of all of them. So he has always told that if you have courage and if you're having truth, there is no need to get scared of anything. So we'll quickly take note of some ethical values that we can learn from his life and use it in virtues that we have in our ethics GS paper. Okay, so we'll begin with the first one, courage or fortitude. So this is the first value that we can learn from the person. So he has faced n number of lawsuits in his life from major companies like Cadbury. So still he advocated consumer rights in public health emergency. Then he also believes in the idea of educate to empower. That is, if you teach people how to read the labels, create awareness about what exactly is protein, how you need to consume them, and why it is an important part of a diet, if you educate them with this, they will empower their own health. There is nothing much left to do on our end once they are educated on this. And the third value is related to accountability. We use this term in ethic very frequently, but at times lack examples to use uniquely in our answers. So the person here was working in a very high paid corporate job, but just to make sure that whatever unethical things he has been seeing, he needs to give voice to that. So taking ownership of past roles and working to correct the systemic issues definitely is a good example for accountability of an individual. So he was also a person who advocated justice, the cause of justice. To fight misinformation is one of the noblest job one can do in the present time, in the world where misinformation rules. If you have seen the previous video, many of the brands create a hyper reality telling that we are the most cleanest products, but we need people like Mr. Hemant Singha to break these myths. Then there is also a lot of issues where if a person has certain core principles in their life, come what may, they would not compromise it. That is, he has always emphasized on the importance of transparency in food industry, so that people trust the industry and they will have a good experience of consuming the product along with good health. So if you see in examples like, let's say, governance, in governance where we can talk about how to make systemic changes in bringing nutritional security, or we have Nutrition India campaign. So in that also we can include the examples of Mr. Hemant Singha. And the second is an ethic case study on integrity, accountability, taking up social responsibility out of one's own initiative. They have been good areas where you can use the current example. Plus, we can also link this topic to individual activism kind of topic in our essays. So do remember this from the perspective of 3 important GS papers. So the last topic for today is a poem of Rabindranath Tagore called Ekla Cholo Re, a poem that has always inspired Gandhiji during those phases of his life when his decisions weren't supported by public and he had to walk a lonely path. So to summarize this whole phrase, Ekla Cholo, it means that if no one heeds your call, walk alone. So in paper 4, GS paper 4, we have case studies in ethics where we are forced to take a path towards truth all alone. Let's say there is no support extended from the staff or superior due to many pressure that exists on them, or even the society is not happy with the decisions that you are taking. But if you are determined that your path is morally correct and ethically right, it is really okay to walk alone. So you can quote this phrase of Ekla Cholo to justify your decision in such kind of case studies. At the same time, there's a very popular quote which goes with the name: pursuit of truth is often a solitary journey. So let's say if we get this as an essay topic as well, to begin this topic, Ekla Cholo is an amazing quote we can tell. And do listen to this entire song sung by Amitabh Bachchan in one of the movies. It is very soothing to hear. Despite not understanding the complete meaning of it, the song is definitely motivating for the UPSC aspirants as well. So we'll end the session with a note that even in UPSC preparation, many of the times the family, friends, or even society may not have the faith in you. But if you are confident that you are going to do the examination in a good way, you are going to achieve what your goals are actually, and you are dedicated and going to the right path, be not scared. One day the success will be yours, and definitely the world will also appreciate it. So thank you for staying with us. The introduction part for gaming answer is uploaded on the description box. You can have a look at it. Thank you.